States told reporters on board Air Force One that a face-to-face meeting between Trump and Modi may happen soon, with Narendra Modi likely to visit the White House as early as February. Trump's word came hours after the two leaders spoke over the phone, their first since Trump's thumping return to the White House. Referring to Donald Trump as his dear friend, Prime Minister Modi reiterated that India and the United States are committed to a mutually beneficial and trusted partnership. The two leaders discussed security in the Indo-Pacific and the Middle East. Donald Trump emphasized the need for India to increase its US weapons procurement and for the two nations to move towards fair bilateral trade ties. Both leaders not only reaffirmed their commitment to advancing India-United States strategic ties, but also to the Indo-Pacific Quad partnership. India is set to host the Quad summit later this year. The big elephant in the room, immigration, was also raised by Trump in his phone call with Prime Minister Modi. The US president said that he's hopeful Modi will take the right decision on illegal immigrants. In Washington, D.C. last week, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar did say India is open to taking back illegals.
We are also very firmly opposed to illegal mobility and illegal migration. But we have been consistent, we have been very principled about it, and that remains our position.
The Trump-Modi bonhomie provided more than enough photo ops the last time round. But with Trump 2.0 being more transactional in approach, trade tariffs, immigration and China will dictate the evolution of the Indo-US partnership. Bureau Report, India Today. Joining me live now to decode and to understand just a little better what the relationship looks like moving ahead between India and the United States on the shoulders of these two global leaders, Donald Trump and Narendra Modi, two leaders who've shared a warm personal bond. They've navigated, a lot of turbulences between the two countries. And after the Biden presidency, India has in many ways welcomed the return of Donald Trump. There is continuity in the relationship, but there is a great deal to look forward to. Joining me live is India's most well-known strategic affairs thinker and writer, Brahma Chelani, also our foreign affairs editor, Geeta Mohan. Brahma Chelani, I'd like to start it off with you by quoting a key sentence in the single paragraph that has been released by the White House about this phone call between Trump and Modi. And it is really the only thing we have to go by at this point of time, where it says the two leaders discussed expanding and deepening cooperation. They also discussed a range of regional issues, including security in the Indo-Pacific, Middle East and Europe. That's pretty boilerplate stuff. But also the president emphasized the importance of India increasing its procurement of American-made security equipment and moving toward a fair bilateral trading relationship. What did you read into this, very small paragraph describing the conversation between the two leaders?
First, I think it's important to bear in mind that in the last 2 years of the Biden presidency, the US-India relationship began fraying.
Yeah.
We did not focus on the fact that this relationship was coming under strain, but a series of issues cropped up, including the use of the human rights card, the Khalistan card by Washington, then the Bangladesh regime change, then the two indictments, one of Adani, one of a former intelligence officer. All those developments put pressure on the US-India relationship. And Trump's victory in November was a shot in the arm for this relationship.
Yeah.
It signaled that this relationship could regain its momentum. As far as Trump is concerned, he's always been transactional quite openly. The US foreign policy under successive presidents has been transactional.
Yeah.
The thing about Trump is that he's quite open about his transactional instinct. In his first term, he persuaded India to increase its imports of American oil and petroleum products. Indian imports of American oil and petroleum products really shot up after 2018. For 4 years, there was a big spike in imports of American oil and petroleum products until the Ukraine invasion opened up the Russian market for India. It's a cheaper source. So today, he is now again demanding what he was demanding in the first term, which is that India should buy more US weapons. And he hasn't said anything about the oil part, but he will also ask India to buy more American oil, just the way he has been asking Europe to buy more American oil.
Yeah. Very interesting. And, Geeta, to bring you in on this, obviously neither side has let out too much, but the White House statement does capture a few nuggets, and one of them we've just spoken about. Are you hearing anything on background from the government about, what the next steps are going to look like in this relationship, basis this conversation between the two leaders?
Well, too early, but Shiv, Dr. Jaishankar was in Washington, D.C. He met with the outgoing administration, but also engaged the incoming administration, engaging his own officials in D.C., understanding what this transition and what the changes could really mean. There are a few things over here. One is that, yes, Trump would want greater cooperation with India, keeping China in mind. Look at the appointments, and you know that they are going to be very China-centric, not in terms of a boost to China-US relations, more likely to contain China in the region, particularly in the Indo-Pacific. And in that, India is going to be an important player. So that's where they're going to be key partners. But having said that, there are a few areas that could be of concern to India. India has gone ahead and given or assured cooperation on illegals.
Yeah.
That deportation is something they would not they would cooperate in once the nationality is identified and those illegals are deported. But apart from that, immigration in itself, visa issues, make in India trade is going to be a very, very important area of concern, because if you look at the two readouts, the Prime Minister's office put out a readout which only spoke about cooperation, so on and so forth. But it's the White House readout where very specifically they've said that that America looks forward to American-made defense equipment acquisition in order to further make in America. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's what the readout basically essentially meant. So they are going to look at a lot of Make in America rather than the focus on Prime Minister Modi's Make in India, Shiv.
So immigration is not going to be a big sticking point. On H-1B, Trump actually sounded rather ambivalent. He didn't take a strong position one way or the other. But that's, of course, going to be an issue that needs to be navigated carefully, because it has big implications for both sides. I want to come now to the issue of defense, because it's quite unusual, but in signature style, the transactional style, the kind of very transparent, openly aggressive style, in this opening readout itself, there's already a specific line saying that Trump is keen for India to increase, its purchase of American equipment. Before I come to Brahmachalani about that specific point, on defense procurements, I just want to list for our viewers who may not be familiar, I'm sure you are, but just as a way of a reminder, how much American equipment India has actually purchased in the last 15 to 20 years, and it is an enormous amount. The Indian Air Force uses 22 Apache attack helicopters. It also uses 15 Chinook heavy-lift helicopters, both made by Boeing in the United States. The Indian Air Force operates 12 or I think 13 C-130J medium transport aircraft. We've got 11 C-17 Globemaster III heavy-lift aircraft, very visible across the world. 512 CBU-97 precision-guided cluster bombs. We're getting about 24. I think 12 have been delivered. MH-60 Romeo anti-submarine naval helicopters. The P-8I submarine hunter long-range maritime reconnaissance aircraft of the Navy have been used extensively. The INS Jalashwa amphibious warship, a few know, is actually an ex-US Navy Trenton-class amphibious ship. Harpoon anti-ship missiles are operational. The Indian Tejas fighter is powered by a GE 404 engine that comes from the United States. The Indian Army uses over 100 M777 ultralight howitzer guns, which are assembled in India but are of US origin. One of the standard assault rifles with the Indian infantry is now an American Sig Sauer Sig 716 assault rifle. The Indian Navy also uses Mk-54 torpedoes. There are many, many other items from the US defense companies that the Indian military currently uses, but I've just touched upon some of the main ones. Brahma Chelani, why do you think Trump has made it a point to specifically mention this in that in that first conversation between Prime Minister Modi and himself? What does that tell you? Because the India-US defense trade relationship has actually been booming. The deal for 31 MQ-9B drones was signed recently. That actually has its origins in the earlier Trump administration. So for him to actually mention it specifically, one would imagine that things were not really going well. They're actually going great. So why do you think he said it?
Because he wants every summit meeting to yield business for the US. So now that he has invited Modi to come to the White House next month, he wants some major business deals. It's very clear. As you rightly point out, in terms of the big ticket items, the US in the last 1 decade has overtaken Russia. We still focus on Russia being the main supplier, yes, because we have this big procurement over several decades. So we depend on Russia for spare parts, for servicing, and many other things. But in terms of big ticket items, in the last 1 decade, the US is in the #1 position. Unfortunately, a few months ago, despite the strains that became apparent in the US-India relationship under Biden, we signed this deal on drones, armed drones. We could have actually kept that deal for Trump, for the new administration. We signed it a bit too early because that would have been one major item to showcase in the Trump-Modi meeting next month.
Yeah.
But now we'll have to look at other possible deals with the US because Trump doesn't want Modi to come to Washington without offering anything to the US in terms of business.
No, that's very interesting. If Trump is going to expect some kind of a big bang announcement with every meeting, and if this meeting is coming up in February, one wonders what could that possibly be. Geeta, anything you're hearing? We do know that there have been from time to time talks about Stryker armored vehicles, being assembled in India for the Indian Army. There have been talks about expanding orders for, the American aircraft that are already there in Indian military inventory. But I don't see anything sort of coming together between now and February. These things typically take quite a long time to firm up and negotiate. Is there something we're not seeing that could be announced between Modi and Trump, not just in defense, but maybe something else?
Well, in terms of announcements, Shiv, there could always be a surprise. We've seen that in the past when it comes to India and the United States of America. But having said that, yes, like you rightly pointed out, it is quite early. It is too early to say whether there are going to be announcements or not. In all probability, what we're looking at, and like Dr. Jaishankar said when he said that when questions were being asked about Vice Prime Minister Modi not there, Jaishankar being there, they all are speaking of one thing, the fact that India's representation and the optics do matter, the fact that there are only a few people who were invited, leadership level, and in this case, we are looking at Prime Minister Modi and President Trump's visit very early on in the Trump administration itself. Garcetti was speaking to us, and he was appointed by the Biden administration, and he said that there could be a very early visit by Prime Minister Modi and a reciprocal visit by President Trump for the Quad Summit, which India is to host. So the level of visits, the leadership level visits in itself goes to show that they are upbeat about India and ties with India. Look at the State Department, look at this Department of Defense, National Security Advisor, all of them upbeat, very positive about India, and that's why this early visit. The first, I suppose, visit is of Netanyahu, Israel's Prime Minister, who will be in Washington, D.C. next week. And in the coming days, you're only going to see a few very important leaders who are going to make it to Washington, D.C., and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is indeed one of them.
Geeta, thanks very much for the moment, for joining us on that. So, we have a few days, so we will try and dig around to see if we can find out what, if any, surprises there could be when Prime Minister Modi flies to the United States. But Mr. Chelani, just stay with me for a moment longer. I do want to end with one more question. But before that, the issue of illegal immigrants and immigration has actually been the subject of some of the most aggressive decisions taken by President Trump in his first few days in office. He's ramped up the fight against illegal immigrants as he had promised. He says troops have been deployed at the US southern border. He's vowed to find and load illegal aliens onto military aircraft and return them back to their home country. Since Donald Trump's return to the White House, over 1,100 illegal immigrants have been arrested so far, making it the highest number of arrests in a single swoop. When asked about whether India will take back illegal immigrants, Donald Trump says he spoke to Prime Minister Modi on the issue and says he's hopeful that Modi will do what is correct. In fact, Dr. S. Jaishankar, when he was in the United States answering a question, also indicated that India had no problem in taking back illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, the US president has announced a slew of new executive orders, including the construction of an Iron Dome system to get transgenders out of the military. That is separate. We'll go to the executive orders separately. But the reason why immigration is an important issue is because it is sensitive, it is emotive. We saw a big collision between the United States and Colombia recently, where Colombia had to finally cave in and agree to Trump's conditions and accept illegal immigrants back into that country or face very, very severe sanctions and tariffs. Brahma Chelani, my final question to you on the issue of illegal immigrants. The number of the stated number of illegal immigrants from India is actually quite a small number. We're hearing 18 to 20,000 or some such. The noises made from India so far have been pretty reasonable, and Trump saying he hopes India will do the right thing. Do you see this as a friction point or not really?
It is a potential friction point given the way the Trump administration has been deporting illegal migrants, handcuffing them, putting them on military planes and dispatching them to Central America and South America. We don't want to see a similar situation in relation to the illegal migrants from India, because that will have an impact on public opinion in India. So this is going to be a sensitive issue for the Modi government. But we should be very clear on one thing, given the fact that that public opinion in the US is in favor of government action against illegal migrants, even though the US is very polarized like India, and half of American adults dislike Trump. But on the issue of illegal migration, there is overwhelming support for tough action against illegal aliens. And Trump knows that for every president, the post-inauguration honeymoon is quite short. So he wants to leave his signature in the next few weeks before other issues crop up and the honeymoon is over. He wants to show to the public that he has done what he had promised during the campaign.
Well, what a honeymoon it's turning out to be, and Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States will be, just around that time that honeymoon is either coming to an end or has ended. So much to look forward to, some friction points, but a great deal of continuity, hopefully some surprises and some big forward steps in this all-important strategic relationship. Brahma Chelani, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for giving us your time and helping us understand what this relationship really looks like. Here's what Trump, by the way, had said when he was asked about that question on immigration. Take a look.
I've also deployed troops to the border, and for the first time in history, we're locating and loading illegal aliens into military aircraft and flying them back to the places from which they came. And very importantly, America is respected again. We're respected again. Isn't that nice? After years of laughing at us like we're stupid people. And as you saw yesterday, we've made it clear to every country that they will be taking back our people that we're sending out, the criminals that the illegal aliens coming from their countries. We're taking them back, and they're going to take them back fast. And if they don't, they'll pay a very high economic price. We're tracking down the illegal alien criminals. We're detaining them, and we are throwing them the hell out of our country. We have no apologies, and we're moving forward very fast. They're very dangerous people.
And in the middle of this entire deportation of illegal immigrants in the United States, one of America's biggest pop stars, Selena Gomez, has gone viral for a video she posted on her Instagram, only to delete it just moments later. I'm going to play out that full video for you, where she recorded a video of herself weeping and through sobs, apologizing along with a Mexican flag in the text in that video, apologizing to people who are facing these deportations. But incredibly, a pop star who has over 400 million followers on Instagram faced heavy criticism and deleted the video from her social media and wrote a post saying, I quote, "Apparently it's not okay to show empathy for the people. Take a look and decide for yourself."
I just want to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. The children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
I mean, I can understand posting that, but imagine deleting it. If you go onto social media now, you'll see all the fallout, the outrage, the memes that have followed what Selena Gomez did. We'll keep a track of what's happening in the United States as always here on India Today. But coming up on the other side, China's DeepSeek, which we put a spotlight on here on India Today yesterday, and now followed by so much of the Indian media finally waking up to this big story. Well, we're following it up to tell you how the bloodbath continues, how the biggest companies in the world are losing billions of dollars at the stock markets thanks to this new Chinese AI app.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
I don't read the news. I read between the lines to tell you the true version of events, the true story of our times.
To document grief, the toughest assignment for any journalist to be.
From those who matter,
women politicians going to stick up for each other.
Of those who should matter, I document the truth. I don't distort the truth. I don't glamorize the truth. I don't gloss over the truth.
The ghosts of India's contentious medieval history have come knocking again.
I hustle for the truth. On the ground, in the newsroom, in the studio. I don't try to grab eyeballs.
I inform you to make you see the point.
To the point with Preeti Chaudhary at these times only on India Today.
Rangila Re, with Motorola's incredible range of smartphones.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Hi, I am AI anchor Sana, bringing the top headlines for you, presented by Motorola. Miscreants target train on Jhansi-Prayagraj route, cause havoc at Harpalpur station. NIA launches raids at 6 locations in Jammu and Kashmir over terror conspiracy case. Major tragedy in UP's Bagpat, stage collapse claims lives of several devotees at Nirvana Mahotsav.
sounded. Small state, big heart, and bigger political dividends. This is no ordinary election. Delhi doesn't just vote, it challenges. It questions.
Delhi living in a literal virtual gas chamber.
It decides the narrative for the nation.
We are the only revenue surplus government in the country.
As the battle unfolds on the 5th and the verdict echoes on the 8th, we're here to bring it all to you. This is State of War Delhi.
DeepSeek sparks global AI sell-off. Nvidia stock sheds nearly $600 billion. Trump sounds alarm over DeepSeek rise.
The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win.
Overvalued AI giants feel the heat. DeepSeek AI disruption. Top focus on 5 Live.
It is true, China's DeepSeek, like we told you, has turned the world of artificial intelligence on its head, and now it's bleeding some of the biggest companies. The open source DeepSeek R1 model from China has dethroned OpenAI's ChatGPT in the Apple App Store for the most number of free downloads, making waves for building a model similar to ChatGPT, but for an exponentially smaller cost and at a far smaller time run. Take a look at the latest that we're reporting on this.
DeepSeek. It's all what everyone is talking about. The Chinese startup is shaking up the AI universe. Its new generation of AI models are competing with the ones developed by US big tech, but at a fraction of the cost. Even the US president has taken note.
Today and over the last couple of days, I've been reading about China and some of the companies in China, one in particular, coming up with a faster method of AI and much less expensive method. And that's good, because you don't have to spend this much money. I view that as a positive, as an asset.
DeepSeek claims to have spent around $3.5 million to train its V3 model, delivering the same results that took Google, OpenAI, Meta, and others hundreds of millions of dollars to achieve. According to Epoch AI, Google and OpenAI spent around $70 million to $100 million in 2023 to train Gemini 1.0 Ultra and GPT-4 frontier models.
This is very unusual when you hear a DeepSeek, when you hear somebody come up with something. We always have the ideas, we're always first. So I would say that's a positive. That could be very much a positive development. So instead of spending billions and billions, you'll spend less and you'll come up with, hopefully, the same solution.
Analysts are calling it a tipping point of AI economics.
This really goes to show that necessity is the mother of invention, as the old saying goes. is they don't necessarily have the tens of billions of dollars that some of these companies in the US have. And they wanted to compete. They had perhaps a better algorithm, a better idea about how to train the models, and then also how to execute on it for answering people's questions. And they are using a slightly different technique, which is apparently, based on the data so far, a lot more energy efficient and efficient in terms of the chips that it might take as well. They were able to really do this on what some people would call a shoestring budget.
But there are apprehensions too. DeepSeek CEO and founder Liang Wenfeng is a billionaire who runs a hedge fund. These images of him meeting with Chinese Premier Li Qiang on 20th January have fueled concerns about the tech company's proximity with the Chinese government, putting the spotlight on data sharing. Bureau Report, India Today.
So DeepSeek is what everyone is talking about at this point of time. Everyone is familiar somewhat with ChatGPT, but ChatGPT, at least on the Apple App Store, has been unseated by DeepSeek. But what are the differences? There are so many differences, but for the sake of the user experience and some of the questions that are being asked of both these models, let's try and find out what the differences could actually be. The DeepSeek development costs $6 million. Peanuts when you compare it to what ChatGPT cost, over 100 million and more over many, many more years. Is DeepSeek open source? Yes, it is. Is ChatGPT open source? No, it isn't. What are DeepSeek's strengths? We don't know very many, but it claims that its strengths include coding, reasoning, and mathematical tasks. ChatGPT's strengths: creative writing, conversational and on current affairs. DeepSeek subscription free for users at this moment, but it's extremely slow. ChatGPT subscription starts at $20 a month. DeepSeek hardware, minimal, uses older NVIDIA GPUs. ChatGPT hardware, high-end GPUs at this point of time. DeepSeek performance, fast, excels in technical tasks, though I will point out that there are many, many lapses there. ChatGPT performance, strong storytelling, humor, very, very conversational, like it says. DeepSeek censorship, challenges from China government influence, a huge amount of propaganda we encountered, a refusal to answer even basic questions of a even slightly or obliquely contentious nature as far as China are concerned. ChatGPT censorship, less restricted, but biases from training data, obviously. So these are just the broad differences between ChatGPT and DeepSeek, but we'd like to understand it better from those actually in the AI trenches, those involved in AI, those adopting AI in a big way, and those part of an ecosystem that will perhaps one day make India the site of the next DeepSeek or ChatGPT. It's a big question that everyone's asking here in India. We asked it yesterday as well, but there still isn't a satisfactory answer to it. So let's go to the experts, those in the world of AI. Priya Guliani is CEO of Earth ID. It's an AI blockchain-based startup. She's with us live from London. Priya, welcome. And Ananay Batra is founder and CEO of Listener AI. He's a person who has grown his company to 1.5 million users, a large amount of revenue. He's been able to raise money as well and actually built an AI-based company that is doing things out there. He's got large, blue chip clients in different parts of the world using AI tech developed by him here in India. So Ananay and Priya, welcome to the both of you. Ananay, since I'd reached out to you first, I'll start with you. You had a tweet yesterday which I found really interesting. I think you meant it a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's still interesting because we're talking about DeepSeek here, and obviously most people are wondering, hey, I thought India was an IT powerhouse and, we had so much startup muscle and we knew how to get things done. Why didn't DeepSeek come out of India? Why has it come out of China? You tweeted a few days ago, $2 million to build a DeepSeek alternative in India. It's now easier than ever. In all seriousness, koi transfer kar do, for the love of God, thank me later. Obviously a part of you was kidding, but a part of you was not, because you are actually an AI founder in India. So tell us what you meant by that, Ananay.
Shiv, thanks for having me, first of all. Second, what I actually meant by that was, I think scarcity does indeed breed innovation. So I really wanted us to build something like this first and not China. And I think we could have built it, absolutely. But I do think that there is a fundamental problem in the VC/startup ecosystem here, because we're just funding the next 7-minute food delivery startup, right? We just want cappuccinos in the next 7 minutes for some reason. But see, what I exactly mean by this is, if you look at DeepSeek's paper, right, you'll see that all their weights are public, what they've done and why it took so less to train all the data is also public, right? They use this thing called auxiliary loss-free load balancing, right?
Yeah.
And essentially what it does is it trains only the 5% of the verified tokens instead of everything, all the 100% tokens, which is essentially what Meta and Google and all these other people do, right? So I think that significantly reduces the computational needs and by extension, the energy needs in order for us to create a model like this. But yeah, that's essentially my thesis. And see, even if people wanted to build something like this in India, I don't think, they'd be laughed off from the room, right? I don't think people would take them seriously. But since now it's been done, I think it's time for us to catch up real quick.
But what has really angered me deeply, and Priya, I'll come to you, is a video of Sam Altman from a couple of years ago. Everyone remembers this. He was in India for a summit, a media summit, where someone had asked him about, what it would take for, a group of talented Indian engineers to come up with the next ChatGPT or something that becomes truly global in the world of AI. And he essentially condescendingly said it's completely hopeless. You're never going to be able to match what the United States can do. And look where Sam Altman is right now. He's eating humble pie because of what DeepSeek has done. I'm taking a great deal of vicarious satisfaction from that. But the truth of the matter is DeepSeek isn't Indian. And most people are wondering, when is that time going to come? Is that even possible? Priya, what do you think? What is the answer to that question?
I think first I want to point to that Sam Altman video that you mentioned about. So DeepSeek has clearly captured global attention as a groundbreaking AI model. But having said that, it's also a wake-up call, right? That emerging models can come and will come, right? So it's a powerful reminder that nobody can sit and just be complacent that I am the king of the world. So that sort of a thing. But having said that, India truly is capable, has all the right ingredients, resources, massive data center, ability to collect the data to be that pioneer in the AI model creation.
But you actually run a company that has so much to do with AI. Could you give us a prescription? Priya, I want to know, I want a prescription from the both of you today. If you were given a task saying, listen, I'm going to give you 2 years, I'm going to give you a certain amount of money, all of those things that you've just mentioned, that Ananay mentioned, venture capital, the freedom to meet your targets, whatever it is, what would it take for something like that to happen? What's missing is what I'm trying to find out.
I don't think there's a missing ingredient. I particularly feel that in this quest of innovation, we are sort of leaving behind the data ethics, privacy, and security concerns. I think we can carve a differentiator for ourselves. India could carve a differentiator for ourselves by really implementing data ethics and data privacy and consciously creating the technology which is truly user-centric. I think that could be that missing ingredient that we are all sort of concerned about DeepSeek right now, particularly when some users have also mentioned that there's been stonewalling going on when it's certain questions, etc. So I think those are the initiatives where we can showcase ourselves that, yes, we've created a transparent model that thrives on user centricity.
You make an amazingly interesting point, and Ananay, I want you to come in on that. Priya says, instead of waging a war in a battle that's going to be difficult, the catch-up battle, the same thing where you had Sam Altman smugly say it's hopeless. We've achieved so much, you're never going to catch up, to what we've achieved. Priya says, we should think in a different direction and break ground in something that people haven't done so far. Privacy and those issues are one of them. But as a founder, as a CEO, and, as someone with skin in the game, Ananay, what are those ingredients that would be required for that to happen? Specific.
I do agree with what she said. I think there is a need for ethical data sourcing. And see, a way to do that is to partner up with news channels, for example, right? That is the first thing that comes to mind. Because see, a lot of the news channels here in India have a lot of regional data, right? So Marathi data, Telugu, Bengali, etc., right? So first and foremost, I think the best way to ethically gather that data is to partner up with news houses and any other media house that does have that sort of a data. That's number one. The other thing, I sort of partially agree because I do think that we should have our own LLM. I remember Nandan Lenikani said we should focus on small language models, which I don't think we're just sort of like defeating. It is a defeatist mindset, the way I look at it. And I think getting data is not the hard problem. And as you said, we already have the right ingredients. But what we should do is we should work more on the model side of things. I think we can even further, optimize the model. For example, the KV caching layer, right? I think we could also do more work on that. But yeah, absolutely. I think building something like an Index TTS, which is biasless, right?
Yes.
Especially made for India, and essentially something that is built for the world, right? Because we haven't really seen a product that came for India and that everyone used, right? We've seen that TikTok came from China and the entire world used it, right? But that is yet to happen for India, right? I think we should absolutely, focus on doing that. I think it is a task worth, moving.
Because the DeepSeek example itself, Priya, has, like you rightly said, pointed out that a very lean company, with not a large workforce, a small workforce, a pretty small budget, relatively speaking, a few $1 million is what we're seeing in reports, in a matter of 2 years has achieved something where Nvidia has lost $598 billion on the stock markets, and it's a bloodbath. Even OpenAI is feeling the heat in a very, very big way. I don't think they'd ever expected to be dethroned from the Apple App Store, by this upstart from China. Isn't that actually good news? That it means that in India, we don't need to wait for, like 100 things to suddenly align and, big, sort of earthquake level shifts to happen in policy for something like this to happen. It could literally happen in a kind of skunkworks kind of scenario where a small group can do something truly, truly innovative. It doesn't require sort of monumental changes. It can happen from anywhere.
Certainly, yes. I mean, like I said, India has all the right ingredients to lead the AI revolution. We need the talent, we need the robust IT ecosystem, and the sheer scale of data generation as well, which Ananya already pointed out.
Yeah.
I think there is also a unique opportunity from a data centers, semiconductor manufacturing, and supercomputing capabilities that these AI models truly need, right? As, for example, self-reliance in these areas would be a super push towards this as well from the hardware companies. I mean, we can already see that with DeepSeek emergence, there's a push and market volatility that we're seeing with respect to hardware companies. That sort of self-reliance being in India would be a powerful push as well. And again, I would quote that the ethical and inclusive AI is the way to go that prioritizes ethics, transparency, and inclusion.
I love the fact that we've got specific answers from the both of you, and the reason is both of you are in this world, and what happens in this world affects your businesses and the work that you do. And so I'm really glad that I called you both on this show. We've gotten a better picture, some real prescriptive answers, and hopefully we'll take this conversation forward. I can guarantee you that stakeholders, the government, they're all watching, and hopefully there will be some lessons in how to craft what the next steps are really going to look like, whether it is in terms of policy, whether it in terms of capital, whether it's in terms of how we do things with other countries. We'll be looking at this very, very closely. We pay a great amount of attention to what India does with AI going forward. Ananya and Priya, appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me on this discussion here. Well, DeepSeek AI is low cost. It's Chinese. It has rattled the United States like few things have in the recent past. Tech stocks and global stock markets have tanked the value of chip maker Nvidia by almost, like I said, $600 billion overnight, a record 17% one-day loss for the Silicon Valley golden child. Take a look at how it happened.
A never-before-witnessed bloodbath shook tech heavyweights around the globe on Monday. The rout started in the US with wonderkind Nvidia plunging 17%, wiping off more than the GDP of Singapore in a single trading session. Others like Broadcom were down more than 17%, Microsoft 2.1% and Google 4.2%. The Japanese market on Tuesday followed suit, with chip testing equipment maker Advantest, a supplier to Nvidia, losing 10% after diving nearly 9% on Monday. Chip-making equipment maker Tokyo Electron fell 5.3%, while technology startup investor SoftBank Group was 6% lower. It was a market taken by surprise and completely spooked by the emergence of a low-cost Chinese artificial intelligence model, DeepSeek, with investors questioning the sky-high valuation and dominance of AI bellwethers. Even the US president took note of the new Chinese dominance.
The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that.
DeepSeek, the Chinese startup, says it uses cheaper chips and less data, seemingly challenging a widespread bet in financial markets that AI will drive demand along a supply chain from chip makers to data centers. Investors are questioning not only the existing costly AI models, but also the expensive hardware powering these tech.
Disruption for the markets today is not just cheaper, but a heck of a lot cheaper, 96% cheaper than what we're finding from the current spend in alternate models like ChatGPT and Gemini. So that is, something that is equivalent of, $5 million spent on the DeepSeek product, but it's $100 billion on the other side of the coin with some of these other products that are available. That's what's disrupting markets right now and why we see such a big impact on things like Nvidia.
DeepSeek's claim that it uses less data at a fraction of the cost of services available currently also attracted attention of the reigning AI leader, Sam Altman of OpenAI. In a tweet, he acknowledged the primacy of DeepSeek but promised better models in days ahead. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.